Yoweri Kaguta Museveni was born 15 September 1944 and has served as president since 1986. His parents were the late Mzee Amos Kaguta, a kettle keeper, and the late Estere Kokundeka Ngazi, a housewife. Museveni, an evangelical Christian, is married with 4 children. Museveni attended Kiamate Elementary School, Mbarara High School, and Tare School. He is said to have attended the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania and is believed to have studied economics and political science and then later involving himself in radical Pan-African politics. Before capturing power in 1986, Museveni was involved in rebellions that toppled Ugandan leaders Idi Amin and Milton Obote. Museveni was sworn in as president on 29 January 1986 for the first time. In his swearing-in, he promised a return to democracy and restoration of security and respect for human rights. In March 1989, Amnesty International published a human rights report on Uganda over gross human rights violations committed by NRA troops. A politicized security apparatus has been a key factor of Museveni's survival in power for more than 3 decades. The first elections under Museveni's government were held on 9 May 1996. Museveni won with 75.5% of the vote from a turnout of 72.6% of eligible voters. Although international and domestic observers described the vote as valid, both the losing candidates rejected the results. Politician Kizza Besigye had been a close confidant of the president and was his bourgeois physician. The election in 2001 culminated in a petition filed by Besigye at the Supreme Court of Uganda. The court declined to nullify the outcome. Perhaps Museveni's most widely noted accomplishment has been his government's successful campaign against AIDS. After the elections, political forces allied to Museveni began a campaign to loosen constitutional limits on the presidential term, allowing him to stand for election again in 2006. The 1995 Ugandan constitution provided for a 2-term limit on the tenure of the president. Moves to alter the constitution and alleged attempts to suppress opposition political forces attracted criticism from domestic commentators, the international community, and Uganda's aid donors. Many observers saw Museveni's efforts to amend the constitution as a rerun of a common problem that afflicts many African leaders, an unwillingness to follow constitutional norms and give up power. In July 2005, the government lifted a 19-year restriction on the activities of political parties. Observers say the restriction had subsequently become nothing more than a restriction on opposition activity. Yoweri Museveni's candidacy for a further 3rd term sparked criticism, as he had promised in 2001 that he was contesting for the last time. The arrest of the main opposition leader Kizza Besigye on 14 November, charged with treason, concealment of treason and rape, had also sparked demonstrations and riots in Kampala and other towns. Although Museveni did worse than in the previous election, he was elected for another 5-year tenure in 2006, having won 59% of the vote against Besigye's 37%. Besigye alleged fraud and rejected the result. The Supreme Court of Uganda later ruled and voted to uphold the results of the election. On 20th February 2011, Museveni was re-elected. The election results were disputed by both the European Union and the opposition. Following the fall of Egypt's Hosni Mubarak and Libya's Muammar Gaddafi, Museveni became the 5th longest-serving African leader. Museveni's rule has been characterized by various issues, including infringements on press freedom that have increasingly been a central focus in Uganda, with attacks on journalists being registered. Another issue of human rights issues in early 2014 was when Museveni signed an anti-homosexuality bill into law. 18 February 2016, the Ugandan Electoral Commission stated that Museveni had been re-elected. Opposition candidates claimed that the elections were marred by widespread fraud, voting irregularities, the repeated arrest of opposition politicians, and a climate of voter intimidation. Yoweri Museveni signed the constitutional amendment bill known as the Age Limit Bill on 27 December 2017. The bill has effectively amended the constitution to remove the presidential age limit caps. Before the amendment, people above 75 and those below 35 years had been barred from running for the highest office. The current age limit bill also extends the term of office of Parliament from the current 5 years to 7 years. The bill also restored presidential two-term limits, which had been removed in a 2005 constitutional amendment. The Electoral Commission of Uganda announced that Museveni had won the re-election for a sixth term with 58.6% of the vote early in 2021. The runner-up, Bobi Wine, refused to accept the results, claiming that the election was the most fraudulent in Uganda's history. Wine was placed under house arrest on 15 January and released on the 26th of the same month. Independent international observers early in the year 2021 called for investigation into potential election fraud amidst a nationwide internet shutdown, human rights abuses, and denied accreditation requests. Many, in an attempt to understand Museveni's way of clinging to power, say one of his greatest enablement is perhaps the way that any potential opposition force is dealt with in his country. Now that Robert Kyagulanyi, aka Bobi Wine, is mounting a serious challenge to the president's rule, he has become the latest politician to face the wrath of the men in uniform. Bobi Wine on Monday reported that his house and that of opposition leader Kizza Besigye had been surrounded by security officers in what some say was a move to monitor their movement ahead of the swearing-in of President Yoweri Museveni on Wednesday. Ugandans under the age of 35, and that is more than 3/4 of the population, have only known one president. Aware that Museveni will not voluntarily relinquish power anytime soon, opposition leader Bobi Wine has placed his hopes for change on Uganda's youth. Measures like the recent introduction of a 12% tax on internet data, mostly seen as another repressive measure, like the ban on access to the social media platform Facebook, are bound to increase dissatisfaction among urban young people